Hello, I am back. So the last video did get a little abruptly cut off. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I didn't plan to have to record two videos, but again, I had a glitch there. So here we are. So anyway, I did conclude at least reading through the poem in the previous video before my recording ran out. But in this part two, I'm just going to take you again through some of the main themes of the poem and how it relates back to modernism. And I want to start with the title. Neruda calls this Tonight I Can Write, which seems to, based on the context of the poem, it implies that there have been other times when he couldn't write. So why is tonight different? Think about this. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. Write, for example, the night is shattered and the blue stars shiver in the distance. This is very much a modernist concept. All of the great writers of the early 20th century got caught up in this, which is the idea that great art can only come out of great suffering. So in the poem, he has endured this loss. Apparently, he's lost this great love of his life, but the compensation for that is now he can create great art. Now he can create something worthy from having suffered this pain. Again, that's very much an existentialist way of thinking about art, but it seems to be the undercurrent of this entire poem, which is now that he has suffered in love, it's brought him to a place where he is able to produce. He's not happy about producing it because inwardly he's miserable, but it's at least got him to that point of creativity. So that's the first thing that we would need to look at with this poem. And then, let me see if I can get us to advance. We want to talk about style. And one of the quirks of Neruda's style here, which again is very modernist in his approach, the poem builds on a series of repetitions. For example, tonight I can write the saddest lines. That's a refrain that comes up time and again, constantly reinforcing that loneliness and alienation. And there are also other odd kind of, we could say, stylistic choices here. For example, there are some kind of strange word juxtapositions and contradictions that are prevalent throughout the poem. I mean, this line here is an example. He says, I no longer love her, that's certain, but maybe I love her. So what are we supposed to take from that? It seems like there's a lot of ambivalence here, that maybe he's fighting these feelings, or he's not quite sure maybe what he does feel. Another line in that vein is this one here. He says, I no longer love her, that's certain, but how I loved her. Well, again, he's comparing and contrasting what he feels now versus what he felt in the past. And do we as readers, do we buy when he says, I no longer love her? It seems like she's still pretty prevalent in his thoughts here. So maybe those are feelings that he's in denial about, or feelings he's trying to come to terms with. That could be a more fair way to put it. But again, we get the tension of these contradictions throughout the poem, and it's kind of like he's literally trying to pull us two different ways. The way that he structures the poem is also a constant building up of tension, release of tension, and it creates these kind of strange contradictions again. And I could give you some examples here of how he kind of builds that tension, resolves it, and then once he gets to a place where it's stabilized, he starts to build it up again. And he's doing all of that through language and word choice. So just starting from right here, he says, tonight I can write the saddest lines, to think that I do not have her, to feel that I have lost her, to hear. So here he's building up on, we've got to feel. Then he immediately goes into another sensory description. To feel that I have lost her, to hear the immense night, still more immense without her. So there's that repetition of immense there. And the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. What does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is shattered and she is not with me. So after these very long fluid sentences, then we get, this is all. So now he's hit us with this very short 3-word sentence. And when he does that, you pay more attention because it hits you just like a hammer over the head. This is all. Then he goes back into a long fluid line. In the distance, someone is singing. But then he repeats that, right? In the distance, someone is singing. In the distance. So what does that 3-word sentence mean? You know, it seems to contradict the mood that he builds up in that longer fluid sentence there. In the distance, someone is singing. That sounds very melancholy, reflective. But then he reinforces the idea that it's in the distance. It doesn't include him. So even if someone is happy and singing, he's still kind of trapped in his alienation from that emotion of happiness. So what I'm going to ask from you, you know, there's going to be a discussion section at the end of this module. And I'm just going to ask you some specific questions to think about in relation to this poem, the feelings that it evokes, how language is used, you know, just some questions to get you to thinking about the stylistic choices that the poet is making here and why. All right, so with that said, I'm going to close out the video and I will see everybody next week. Bye-bye.